He's known as the Franchise Maven. And you guessed it. Today we're talking about all things franchise. What is a franchise? How to franchise? The benefits of franchising. Why should you be considering franchising? And also, let's talk a bit deeper as a business owner. Why is that something you should be looking at? So, Greg, welcome. Welcome to the Business and Wealth Show.
Thank you for having me, Mac. I appreciate it.
You are most welcome. Greg, let's get straight into this. Let's talk about what is it you do now? You know, if you can explain to our audience here, what is it you do? I've given you a small intro, but let me leave the big intro to you.
Thank you, Mac. What I do is I help aspiring and seasoned entrepreneurs get into the world of franchising. Basically, what we're looking at there is people who have a certain goal in mind, financial freedom, building wealth, leaving a legacy for others, and how to do that through franchising. I help people navigate the franchise route to make it simpler and less confusing for them.
Awesome. Okay, got it. So tell us, how did you get into this? How did you get into the business of helping other business owners to develop their franchise or actually make franchise systems set up?
Well, how did I get into franchising to begin with, Mac? We'd have to go into the Wayback Machine on that. I'll keep it short
Okay,
on that one. Yeah, but back in high school, a lot of us got jobs back in the late 70s, kind of dating myself there. A lot of us got jobs at fast food places. Mine just happened to be Taco Bell for whatever reason. And I ended up managing many Taco Bells for this lady, and she just happened to own 50 of them. And turns out she was a master franchisor for Taco Bell. First foray into franchising, loved it. Went on to manage restaurants for about 15 years, microelectronic circuit engineer for 15 years. Got me and an engineering partner of mine, we bought a dry cleaners, privately owned, storage units, and I bought some rental properties. And I did all that because I read Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, while I was getting my master's degree. Great book. It did, however, ruin my corporate career for me. So that was the end of it, because there's something better out there than 9 to 5 or 7 to 5 in my case, Monday through Friday, sometimes weekends. So so I said, you got to do it. So me and another engineering friend, we did that, did some businesses on the side, ran them in our spare time. Really challenged on those because those are privately owned. So we didn't have anybody to help us. Didn't know anything about dry cleaning. Knew a lot about engineering. Didn't know anything about dry cleaning. So we learned along the way, but got out of the corporate world finally. And I sold off my portion to the gentleman who, my friend who did it. He ran the dry cleaners. He took over all that. And then I thought, I've got to get into a business for myself. I loved that franchising thing back when I was in high school. That was very simple. Playbook, step-by-step process. Loved all that. The private loan business, good, bit of a challenge. So I said, I'm going back into franchising. So I went and searched for all sorts of franchises, really confusing, a lot of different franchises out there. Found a franchise consultant who knew they existed. He and she, there's two of them that helped me out. Found a great franchise system for me. I ran my franchise for a couple of years. Then I thought, this is a great deal. Not a lot of people know about it. Not a lot of people know franchise consultants even exist out there, or the fact that we're free. So I've got to let other people know about it. And what I really enjoyed was the fact that I got to work from home and work with many different people throughout the world and just really educating them on how franchising works and seeing if it's a good option for them, because it's always good to have options.
So did you say you've helped people all over the world to actually create their franchise? Oh, perfect. We are in the right place.
You are, yes. So all the way I've taken franchises overseas over there, and I've brought people from overseas into the United States through franchising. So many different things.
Oh, excellent. For most small business owners would know what a franchise is, but for those who don't, explain in layman terms what a franchise is and how that differs from a license model.
So a license model, well, great question, Mac. I get this quite a bit. There's all sorts of difference, private, license, franchise. So a license model is people just, they've got something in place. They've got systems and processes in place. So kind of similar to franchising with a license model, you've got step-by-step playbook, systems and processes, and you're buying somebody else's, in the licensing model, you're not buying, you're renting somebody else's idea, both in the franchising world and in licenses. You're renting what they have, their business model itself. With a license, they can license to just about anybody, anywhere. We call those business opportunities. We have a couple of them out there. but they're open to selling as many licenses and in many cities
Right.
as they want to, no restrictions whatsoever on that. When you get into the franchising section of it, franchising is going to be similar, is that you've got that business model and you're basically renting or leasing that business model for 5 to 10 years. That's what your agreement is. So that business model is just a step-by-step playbook of exactly what to do, when to do it, who to do it with, all that good stuff on that. But franchising is here in the United States a little bit more restrictive as far as the Federal Trade Commission steps in with rules and groundwork that the franchises have to follow, having a franchise disclosure document, getting licensed in certain states. So a little bit more government oversight on that part, on those. And generally speaking, with a franchise system, as which difference in a license is that the franchise system, you're going to have a specific territory that you're going to be in on that one. And that's going to vary. If it's a brick and mortar, it'd be miles radius. If it's a service industry, you'll be looking at population density of a certain household income on that. And in the franchise system, since you have to have the franchise disclosure documents, which is an outline of everything that the franchise are all about, in there will also have a listing of the people who are currently running the franchise and listing of the people who will run it, who started running it and no longer running it. So you know, and you can call upon as many franchisees as you like to verify and validate everything that that franchisor told you, whereas a licensing agreement doesn't have to have all of that because they're a little bit more loose with the restrictions on that one. So give and take as far as, private licensing agreement or franchise, which one to choose. But franchising is just going to be a little bit more of government oversight on that. So probably a little less risky, I would say, than a licensing agreement. But generally, it's going to be a little bit more of an investment because of all that.
Yeah, and that's what I found as well, because I've had license deals from various companies in the past. We've created our own for our coaching business for our coaches, but I've also had a franchisee of a franchise business, and like you said, the franchise side of it is just more detailed. There's more statutory regulations. There's more compliance in terms of branding and everything else. So I hear exactly what you're saying. It makes sense. So far we're talking about being a franchise owner. Do you work with people who've actually got a business system and they want to turn it into a franchise model or not?
Yes, I have, Mac. I've done that to a few different ones on that one. And I have a team of people that will actually turn your business into a franchise itself.
Okay. Oh, fantastic. Good. So you're covering both angles, being a company franchisor and a franchisee. I love it. I love it. Very good. So is a franchise, whether you're a franchisor or a franchise, actually, I want to come from the model of, because a lot of our clients are business owners. So they are developing systems or have a business system already. So I want to come from the angle of, as a franchisor, so as a business owner, how do I know if my business is ready to be franchised so I can get franchisees if I'm looking at scaling or growing or investment?
Mac, a couple of things we look at there, and you should too, as a business owner, if you're looking to get into it. You want to attract, as Mac, you just indicated, you want to attract new franchisees, potential franchisees. So what attracts new franchisees? Well, first thing is, can your product or service be used in many different cities and states on there? Okay, the more the merrier, obviously. Now we do have boating franchises in the United States. So then they're working. Obviously, not every city and state is near a body of water on that. So it probably wouldn't work too well, out in the middle of a desert, have a boating franchise. It doesn't work that way. But there's enough of them. And that's what you need to look at as a business owner. Is there enough cities and states, the people in them that can use your product and service? Secondly, people are going to be wondering, how much can you make? They always ask, how much can you make on that? I can't tell them that because franchising's with the restrictions and compliance. I can't tell them how much they make per franchise. But you as a franchisor will gather that information. You will have that information in your franchise disclosure documents. You can tell them what most people are looking for. Not everybody, mind you, but what most people are looking for is a good 6-figure income in a franchise. So if your business is already netting a 6-figure income or more, that makes it more appealing to people to come take a look at it on that. Again, these things are absolutely necessary, but they're going to attract more people and make it less challenging for you to grow. The last thing is if you've already replicated it, you already have another location or two in there, that makes it more appealing to people because they've seen that you've already replicated it. We brought in franchises that just have one franchise location, their startup corporate location, grown them to multiple units. It's entirely doable. It's just going to take a little while longer to find the right person that really believes in you, that really believes in your concept, that's going to invest with you on that.
Thank you. Do you ever get to a stage where those people who have a business that can be duplicated or replicated, and do you have a system whereby you help them to launch the whole thing from business system to franchise, including all the legals, all the compliance, and actually launch so they can start getting franchisees as well?
Yes, we do. We've got a couple different teams of people that'll do that. It's generally around $50,000. If you're thinking of wondering, how much something like that's going to run you, it's only about $50,000. They're going to take you from everything that you have in place, all your policies and procedures manual. They're going to streamline that. They're going to make that into a franchise, a playbook that you can hand out to your potential or your new franchisees out there. Franchise disclosure documents, they're going to get those. So there's like 22 different items in there. They're going to create those documents for you as well. Here in the US, we have some non-registration states, which just means there's less paperwork involved that you can just start offering your franchise to right away. And there's several registration states where it just costs a little bit more money, a little more paperwork to get into. They'll go through all that with you, but they'll take you from the concept all the way to franchise. Generally within 2 or 3 months, just depending on how fast you want to go, around 50 grand. And then from there, you can find potential franchisees yourself. There are franchise groups that you can get involved in, like mine, the International Franchise Professionals Group, where you have a few hundred different franchise consultants helping you find people and do the advertising marketing for you. And there's other franchise organizations that you can get involved in that will expedite that and make it faster. They all charge different factors. So it really comes down to, how fast do you want to grow and how much are you willing to pay to get there?
Thank you for that, Greg. Greg, tell me, I read that there are several types of franchises, and I think you started touching on some of them: single to area developer, master developer, all this. Can you break that down? So if someone's got a business, they think, I want a franchise, but what are the various types, and who am I looking for in this hierarchy of possible franchisees?
Yeah, great question, Max. So as a person that's getting into a franchise, you want to get into a franchise. Generally speaking, most people start out with what they call a unit franchise. So that's one territory, as we spoke about earlier, the one territory on that. With a brick and mortar, it's going to be probably miles radius. Service industry, you're going to be looking at probably, if you look at households, 100,000 household income, $100,000 household income, 200,000 of those households. That's one territory. That's yours. No other franchisees can come into that single unit. Now, if you really feel good about that franchise system and you're thinking, I want to take over my whole city on that one because I think this is a great concept, then you might go for what we call an area developer on that, where if your city is divided up into 5 territories, they've probably already done that, the franchisor divided those up into 5 territories, you can buy all 5 of them. For the service industry, that's fairly simple to do because if you take on the whole area, then you generally don't need more than 1, maybe 2 offices to begin with on that, and you just have that entire territory where you develop that entire territory yourself. You put all the money into it. With a brick and mortar, if you're doing something with more than 1 territories, then you're going to have a location in each one of those territories. So you're going to have a build out plan. You'll probably build out the first one in 1 territory the first year, then the second year you'll build out 2 more, and then the second year or the third year you'll build out 2 more because it's a little bit more cost intensive to put up a building or to remodel a building to put that business into. So that's an area developer where you want to encompass the whole area, that whole thing, you want to take over the whole city. Now with a master franchisor, what you would do is then you would buy the whole city right there. So you've got your 5 franchise units out there. You'll start with your pilot location in 1. on that one. That'll be your training facility. And what you do as a master franchisor, you're the right-hand person of that franchise. So those other 4 territories, or however many they divided that up into, you're going to actually sell to other people, and other people are going to build franchise in that territory, and you're going to train them and help them build up. Now, when you're getting into a master franchise, what happens there? Similar to an area developer, if you buy more than one franchise territory at a time, you generally get a reduced price for the extra territories. So if it's 50,000 for one, the extra ones may only be 20 or 30,000 each. So let's go with 20,000 each on that one. So with a master franchisor, they may sell them to you for 10,000 each. So you buy your first one for 50, you buy your other 4 for 10,000 each, but you sell them on that. So maybe you sell them for 20,000 each, and you get your money back on that plus some. Now with a franchise system, in addition to that single franchise fee, one-time franchise fee, the ongoing royalties are another thing that you look at with a franchise system. So with the master franchisor, you got ongoing royalties that are coming in from your units, and you generally split that up with the franchisor itself, because you're doing the training, you're doing the developing, you're doing the helping of that. So the franchisor, him or herself, doesn't have to worry about those territories. So basically, from a master franchisor point of view, you get half of the royalties that are coming in on a regular basis, and you can generally make your money back or pretty close on selling those franchises yourself. Great way to build an annuity, and you're not putting all your money into those extra territories. You've got other people doing it. Turn your pilot unit over to a manager to run, and you're good to go. Great way to build wealth. That makes sense? Well, that's a lot of
there's a lot there. There's a lot there, but I get the general gist that there is there's a formula, there's a hierarchy, there's ways of doing things. So thank you for sharing that. In my head right now, what I'm thinking of asking you is, if I'm a business owner, I think I've studied your stuff, I've spoken to you, I think my business is a great example to be franchised. What are some of the things I need to start considering? And plus, what are some of the dangers that I must be aware of so I don't actually cause myself injury, if I can put it that way? In other words, I spent all these years building this business system. It's fantastic. It doesn't need me. It's running on its own. Now, if I look at a franchise model, well, I'm starting another business eventually to get it scaled and hopefully make a lot more money. So what are some of the benefits and some of the dangers I need to be considering?
So you're a business owner, you're becoming a franchisor now.
Yeah.
What you're looking at there is that since you're a business owner, if you wanted to grow it, you would grow linear, because however much money was coming in, then you can have, when you get to the threshold point, you can build up another unit.
Yeah.
So you're responsible for it. You have to use your money for it. You got all the profits coming in from it because it's all yours, but it's more responsibility. Franchise system, you are not using your money to build out another one. Somebody else is using their money. So more exponential expansion, easier to do that way. You get your royalties, you get your one-time franchise fee, but you also get, which is, most franchises don't make a lot off their one-time franchise fee. It's the ongoing royalties is where they make their money. And that's really what you want to look at when you look at a franchise. They got to be making their money off their royalties. So you're going to charge between 5 or 10% royalties, but somebody else is doing the work for that. So you're not responsible for it. Somebody else is using their money. You get your royalties on that one. So what you're looking at there is you are running that business yourself to begin with. That's your business, you run it. You are going to have a different role from now on. You're no longer running that business. What you're doing is you're training other people to run that business for you. So you've got a completely different role as far as what you're doing on a daily basis. So you got to be okay with that. The fact that now you're going to be helping other people, training other people, conducting meetings, making certain that they're in compliance with your franchise systems on that. Some of the things that you want to concern yourself with, and as you're looking into a franchise from the other point of view, these are things to be looking at too, is when we talked about like those area developers and those master franchisors, it's very lucrative at first for some franchisors to sell more than one territory at one time. But if you're first starting out, and especially if you're a brick and mortar and you sell one person 10 territories,
Mm.
Looks good on paper. You got a lot of money, a lot of cash coming in, but that first territory is good, but those other territories are going to be a few years down the road being established and built out. So
Right.
you've got a long road before you grow actually, and your name gets out there on that. You want to be a little careful about that when you're first beginning, because you want as many territories built up as soon as possible so your name gets out there. So if you lock those territories away for a few years with an area developer or perhaps a master franchisor, might be a little bit concerning at first if you don't get the right people in for that sort of thing on that. And then from our point of view, if a franchise sells too many territories all at once, and we see, 500 territories sold, 50 open, then there's a big disconnect there. Do they have the team? And from your point of view, as the business owner itself, is your team growing to match the amount of people that you're bringing in too? So you've got to think into the future, how many people am I going to need for how many different franchisees I have? Do I want 5 people for every franchisee? Do I want 10 people for every franchisee? Do you have the support systems in place? So those are the things to think about as you are a business owner going into franchising.
Thanks for that, Greg. You are listening to the Business and Wealth Show with your host, the business coach, Mac Attram, and the franchise maven, Greg Mohr. Now, in a moment, I'm going to go to Greg to tell us about building wealth through franchise. We're going to come to that in a moment. But until then, remember to like, remember to share, remember to comment on what you are seeing, what you are hearing. Comment in terms of what nuggets have you got? What ahas have you just received? Give us a thumbs up, give us an emoji, give us something. You know the algorithm loves, there you go, loves interaction, loves engagement. So any engagement you can give so that we can really make this a bit more popular and we can bring you more experts like Greg Mohr here. So Greg, tell our listeners, our audience here, how can one use the franchise model to create a lot more money and ultimately a lot more wealth, like you've been helping other people to do?
Great question, Mac. What you're going to do with franchising is, if you want to build wealth with it, and this goes for any business, by the way, not just franchising, but the first step in that process is making certain that whatever business you are running does not revolve around you, that it can run without your involvement on that. That's the way to do it, so that you can go on vacation, do the things you want to do, and sell it if you want to sell it at a certain time. It's much more challenging to do all those things if the business revolves around you. So first thing, you don't want it to revolve around you. So with a franchise system, you're looking to do a franchise. What you want to look at is those franchises that allow you to run it semi-passive. You manage the manager, you manage the profit and loss statements. You are looking at 10 to 15 hours a week. You don't like managing the profit and loss statements, hire a CPA to do it. So now you're just managing the manager. To build wealth in that system is getting into those franchises where you can do it semi-passively, so you are not the one where the business revolves around. When we're talking about those area developer deals and the master franchisor deals, those are the way to go to really build the wealth on that. There's another way. We'll get to the other way in just a moment, but the area developer is the way to grow horizontally, when you're growing out horizontally, so you're taking over a big area. And then the master franchisor is really to build up that nice annuity in that system where other people are doing the work and you're just training them. The other way to do it is when, instead of an area developer where you're going out horizontally, is to do the vertical growth. So the vertical growth, and let's take, for example, the home services industry. For that, you may start out on the outside doing their groundskeeping for them. You have one territory, that's it, you do the groundskeeping. So what you want to do then is you want to start looking at what other services can you offer, in this case the home, but it can be a business as well. What other services can you offer to that homeowner?
Right.
Okay, you can do maid service, you can do electrical service, you can do HVAC, heating and air conditioning, you can do the plumbing service, painting, appliances. There's many different franchises that, if you just stick with that one territory, that you can grow vertically. So basically you own that home. Anything that person, homeowner, needs, they come directly to you. The same applies to businesses as well. There are some franchises out there where anything that business owner needs, or that office building person needs, they just call you. One-stop shopping, they can get it all done. So those are a couple different ways that you can use to build growth. But just one, make sure the business doesn't revolve around you, so it's semi-passive, and then think about where you want to go: vertical growth, horizontal growth, master franchising. Ooh, you're really ambitious, all the above.
Awesome. I love that. Now, for those who want to learn more from you, Greg, or they want to know more or maybe need your support, what's the best way for them to connect with you, contact you, and have this discussion?
You can get with me on my website, franchisemaven.com. That's franchise, M-A-V as in Victor, E-N.com. Email me at greg@franchisemaven.com, or just pick up the phone and give me a call at 361-772-6401.
Franchisemaven.com, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And you've given all the other information by phone, also via email. We'll add this to the footnotes of the show here. Now, in terms of, I don't know if you touched a little bit on this, but I want to talk about some of the biggest mistakes people make when getting into franchising. You know, do you have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 big mistakes people make in regards to franchising? Because on the face of it, it could seem very, very, oh, that I've got a business system, let me franchise it, let me get these master developers, area developers, let me get these things in place. But what's some of the big mistakes people make when it comes to this?
From the point of view, Mac, of the people who are getting into franchise or looking into getting into a unit franchise area developer, you don't have to know the industry or the business that you're getting into, but get to know it. Get to know that business model. How do they make their money? Where does the money come from? How does that all work? What's their long-term plan, and how sustainable is this going to be on that? Don't let what's a fad or what's in fashion cloud your judgment. Go back to the other mistake, which is to get to know that business model, where they're going to be, how it's growing. It may be popular today and it may be popular tomorrow, but it may not be. So, but don't let it cloud your judgment. Really get to know the business on that. Take advantage of advisors who don't cost anything. Here in the United States, we have what we call our local score chapter, SCORE. Those are people that have been in business in your area for a number of years. I use them when I started getting into franchising to run some business ideas or franchise ideas by them. So they're good people to get into and get to know. Any kind of free advisors that you have, you know, your local chamber of commerce, anything like that, great people to get to know. A lot of free advisors. Don't think you're going to be a millionaire in a year or two. You're generally not, unless you get real lucky, unless you really try hard. But generally not. You're not going to be. It is going to take a little bit of work. It's not all peaches and cream. It is going to take a fair, decent amount of work. And by the time you're through investigating that franchise, you will have talked with enough franchisees to know how long it'll take to work. So that's the other mistake, is don't forget to talk to as many franchisees as it's possible, or as you want. It should be possible to talk to all of them if you want, although some of them have 1,000 franchisees, might be a challenge. But anyway, talk to as many as you can till you start hearing the same thing over and over again on that. And hopefully it's good. If it's not, you're out of here. But you're looking for the same thing over and over again. You make a lot of great friends that way that are going to help you grow your business on that one. Here in the US, probably the same everywhere, is make sure you have enough money on that. Make sure that the money that you have, your net worth, is what that net worth a franchise says is required for that franchise system. Any good franchise system will have, if necessary, some of the service industries may not, but most of the ones, even most of those do, but some of them don't, they have a net worth requirement and a liquid requirement because they don't want you to run out of money. So make certain that you have the funds for that, and you've got a good idea of exactly how that's going to play out. In item number 7 in the franchise disclosure documents, they'll give you a breakdown of it. If you don't meet the net worth requirements, the franchise is generally not going to talk to you. They're just going to let you know you just don't have the money for it. But make certain, if you're doing it yourself, that is the case. Those are just a few. You can go out on my website and you can pick up all of these for free on there. I've got the listing of the 7 mistakes to avoid on there as well. So don't hesitate. It's all free.
Very good. Great information, great insights. Last question then. You may have the answer, you may not. You've been involved, you've been aware of the franchise industry and been involved for decades now. Recently, have you seen what are some of the most popular franchises that are popping up? If there is such a thing, I don't know. There's someone in our audience thinking, hey, I'd like to get into a business. I'm looking at a franchise, but what is really happening right now that there is a demand for? Is there such an answer?
There are ones that pop up in the news that you see, like crumble cookies, for instance.
Okay.
That are that show up because people are just, oh, this is great. But they keep in mind that's one of those fads on there.
Right.
On their back before the COVID thing, yogurt was a huge fad. That was just, I had yogurt franchises popping up all over the place. I couldn't keep up with yogurts on that. Eventually, my funding people said, do not send us any more yogurts because they keep failing on that. So a few of them did fine, but not all of them on that. So those, and they keep those in mind, those are fads. So those are the ones that when you think popular, it's because the news has done a story on them or it's out there. The ones that my people like, the ones that my people keep going back to and that I've been putting people into are the ones that are not so exciting.
All right.
Mike Rowe on Dirty Jobs on that you see them. Those are the sort of businesses where they do those kind of jobs that are what we call essential services that are always going to be around. They've always been around. They will continue to always be around. Heating and air conditioning, plumbing, electrical services, restoration services, senior care, tutoring. Those are the ones where I'm putting more people into these days than anything else because people are looking at that business model, how they make money, what the long-term goals and prospects are of that franchise. So while they're not showing up on the news, except for Mike's, show on that Dirty Jobs, but they're not showing up on the daily news because they're not exciting.
Right.
Make a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
People need them. They're not going away. But those are the ones that most of my people are coming to have really kind of gravitated towards were those essential services franchises.
Great answer. Great answer. You've been listening to Mac Attram here and Greg Mohr. And Greg, I want to say thank you for jumping on and giving us all these insights and this insider knowledge as well. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure, Mac. I appreciate you having me.
All right, everyone, thank you for listening, watching. Remember to like, share, and comment, subscribe, or follow, depending on which channel you are on. Mac Attram and Greg Mohr checking out. Until we speak again, bye for now. Have a great rest of your day.